All right, let's take a look at Fastify with a SQL integration. I'll take a look at the Fastify's Postgres plugin. It's basically built on top of the standard Postgres client, but with some easier management with the Fastify application. So it will make your life easier using this. So let's get to it. I have first of all, I have the package JSON set up with some dependencies that you will need for this implementation. And then I have spawned a Postgres database using this Docker Compose configuration file. And then, as you can see here, I have a database container running on a certain port here, 5432. So let's get right to it. First of all, we want to implement, as we've seen in previous videos, want to install the plugin here. So I'll go with the register, and then we'll put in Fastify Postgres. So here you'll have to put in the settings. We will have a connection string here, and we need to define this. So this is different for each person of how you have installed your database. So my variables here are going to be, I need to first of all make a connection string, and I'll do it in this way so it's more readable. So I know I have a DB username, and this is the user, as you saw before in the Docker Compose here. I have a user for this database and a password. So const db password. This is also just password, so of course this is just an example and that's for production, which would be very unsafe if it was. We will need the db domain, and this is for me localhost. And we will need a port. Let's put in db port, and this is the one 5432. I can do this numeric, I guess. And then I have an actual database inside the server, which is called tutorial db. Did I spell that correctly? I think I did. Yes. Cool. So for now, we have the variables we need to use. So now we need to do the connection string. Let's insert the username first here and separate it by a colon here with a new variable, which will be the password. So now we will have to do the @ sign and then define the domain, db domain, and now set in the port, db port, like this. And at the very last here, we put in the database. So this will become a string that I can insert here. And then this will pretty much be it for connecting to my database. So now we'll just need to interact with it, and this can be done. Let's go to our routes, and we can put in a query. Let's make a string here. We want it to be a query for the database, so I can do a select ID username from users. I have a table for the users, and in this table I have the columns of ID and username, of course. So you'll need to figure that out as well for your case. So the first variable I want to put in is going to be the ID here. And you need to do it in this way to be able to do it in a safe way to avoid any database injections from any external parties. So always make sure you insert your variables in this way. So as you can see here for the ID, this is actually, so this is, I have a get endpoint here, I want to return all the users. So actually, we will not have this here. This will just be very basic, where we will return all the users. And to be able to execute this, I will call it, this is a promise, I will call the asynchronous function here of the app.gpg, which is a reference to the Postgres. And this is going to be a query returning a type of user row. And I'll put in query to be executed. So as you can see here, the user row, that is an interface I put up here. It could also be a type actually. So we'll do it like this. So now for our query, we have the string here to be executed, and we now know somewhat what we're going to get returned. So if we go here and say, let's return the result. Oh wait, we can do it like this. Data is going to be the result dot rows, which will be a list of all the rows returned by this query, as you can see here hovering it. So for the next endpoint, let's just do a few of them. We can put in basically the same, so I'll just copy it to spare us some minutes. But here you can see here the request is going to have a parameter of ID. So I want to put it in as a variable. Let's put in the variables here, which is always going to be an array. And you should maybe test it beforehand if you have the ID, of course, using a validation. You can check out one of my other videos how to do that. But I will just refer it directly here. So I'll go to the request params and use the ID. So this will put in the ID as the ID here, the first argument, and we can put in the variables here. So the library here is going to make sure this is a safe query in the way we put in the variable here, because if I wrote something in this variable that would be like drop this table, then it would be a disaster basically. All right, let's see. Yeah, we got the data here to be returned, so that's cool. This is basically the same almost for any endpoint. You're going to use the query to execute select statements, the insert statements, and even the delete statements, or any other statements that you can do in SQL. So for this post, I'll do a little bit different because you can also use the let's put in a variable here, call this transaction result. So here we go to the app pg.transact, and we will put in a callback function here. So put in like this. And what this is going to do, you can put in multiple queries in this transact method. So what we're going to do here with the transact method, it's going to make sure that a sequence of different queries, if one of them fails, we can do a rollback. So we can basically act like none of the queries was executed. But for inside of this handler, we will put in the client here. And as you can see here, it always tells us this is a pull client. We just put it in here just for explicitity. So for this client, we should do somewhat what we see up here actually. So I'll copy this and I'll format the document so we have it nice. Yeah. So for running these next queries, we're going to be using this client instead. So we put it in like this. Um, and now we need to make sure that I can remove this for now. This new statement we're going to do here is not going to be a select, but we will insert into users where we want to put in the username. We need to define the values, and this is going to be the variable we're going to put in. And we want to have the values here returned as well. We want the values to be returned here. So I'll be returning the ID and username. So whenever we insert this user, we will have the data returned, so we don't have to, or we can actually see the record afterwards. So let's put in, you can see here for the create user, I have the body. You can put in the rec.body.username. So this will be inserted here. And we have the results. So, and now for the transaction's sake, let's do something different here. I'll put in some numbers of the queries. And I'll copy this and put it down here. And let's just redo these to a 2 instead. There we go. And we can be returning the information here. Query 1 is going to contain the result 1. And for the query 2, we can put in the result 2. So the smart thing about this is we can put in stuff like result 1. We can do the row count. And if this is 0, we know that no records has been created. And we can basically say throw new error with the error message user creation failed. We can do the same down here with the 2 here. So basically, the purpose of the transact is, imagine you have a user that you want to create, and maybe you have multiple tables that needs to be filled out. If you run the first query and everything is cool, then you have put in the data. But what if you also need to create some relational data here that is failing? Then you don't want to have any records hanging around that wasn't meant to be there because the user creation failed, basically. So of course you're not going to put in the same user twice, but this is just a quick example of how it can be implemented. You can also imagine if it was a payment and it failed during the process, you would want it to basically roll back and not commit. So if you return here, you will have the commit, and if it throws an error, you will have a rollback of this transaction. So I think this is done. We could maybe do a little something for the sake of knowing which query implemented these. All right, cool. So when this is done, let's just return the object here. So return, and then put this in. So for the very last query I want to do, it's basically going to be just like most of the others. I'll just copy it for making it faster. The query is going to be a little bit different. This is a delete statement, so delete from users. Usually put in where, but I'm just going to be cleaning out the table with this query. So no variables here, and we can do it like this. So this is of course a delete endpoint. So when all of this is set, I think we are ready to execute some code. So let's now start running some code. We want to start the program, and we can try again here with the freed-up port. All right, so now we have the program running. I have a Postgres here. Oh, sorry, Postman. Where I've created a couple of endpoints here, requests here to be hitting the endpoints. So we can test it out right now, running the first one, which will be the one collecting all of the users. We don't expect there to be any data, and there is not. So let's actually just run the. Yeah, I've tested it out before. I'll do a user called my test user, and this returns the entire query, of course. So this is the entire query is coming back here. You can see multiple properties such as the fields, the parsers, the types. Not really that relevant, but if we find the rows, you can see it here. Let's actually just do that change real quick. So rows and dot rows. Let's restart the application, and we can do a new request, and we'll only get back the actual users we created. So for running this endpoint again, we can see now we have multiple users, one for the first query, one for the second query, and we can hit this endpoint here. I think we had a 5, didn't we? Yeah, so this is my test user 5. So it's working as intended. And I think we have covered like the very standard operations. There is some CRUD operations. I could maybe put in a put endpoint for changing the user, but I think you guys can figure that out yourselves. If you're having trouble running a Postgres server using Postman, I can maybe do a video for that one, but I'll keep this as simple as possible. Yeah, so let me know if I missed something or if you want me to do a video about a certain topic. But yeah, for now, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever to help the channel, and stay tuned for more. Cheers!